Welcome to The Beat. I'm Ari Melber, and this week, President Trump is spotlighting his war diplomacy while the Republican Congress presses on with its Epstein probe, a partial rebuke to Trump's demands to drop the issue. Congress deposing Trump Attorney General Barr, who was in charge when Epstein died in custody. And tonight, we actually start our program with a new Beat special report for you, tracing the sordid path of crimes, investigations, corruption, deals with government insiders, often Republicans, the suspicious death of Epstein in custody of the Trump administration's first term, the secretive responses we've been seeing for years across these issues. We're going to show you the new Beat timeline that we've created, reporting for the first time tonight, raising fresh questions for Trump and other government officials. We are going to explain this, what you see here, coming up in this first segment of the show. A timeline that actually will make more sense, we think, when you recall the facts, how Epstein first presented as an elite, wealthy person with ties to other important people, but then his whole facade showed sudden cracks when local police investigated a report of Epstein molesting a 14-year-old, leading to government plans to charge him, which were then watered down into a lesser charge under a secret deal with a Republican appointee, Alex Acosta.
Jeffrey Epstein went to jail just before 10 this morning. He pleaded guilty in open court.
There is no argument that Epstein got an extraordinary break. A backroom deal, some have described it.
What was so important to the government that sex crimes described in this agreement were treated so lightly?
Because of apparently some very high-powered attorneys, they've treated Mr. Epstein much differently.
Very differently. The Bush prosecutor who did that largely let the co-conspirators that were under investigation go and Epstein off the hook with a brief sentence. That prosecutor, later promoted by Trump, we'll get to that. But the evasion of accountability there under public pressure was a problem. And so as the pressure built, later, career prosecutors in DOJ, one of whom who was later fired by Trump, then brought the case during Trump's first term, which changed everything. And then we had Epstein suddenly dying in federal custody.
NBC News has learned that disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein is dead.
His body in that van you see there, seen heading for the medical examiner's office.
Found dead by apparent suicide in his jail cell.
Jeffrey Epstein's attorneys questioning whether his death was a suicide.
Whatever happened with Jeffrey Epstein in prison back in mid-July still has not been fully explained.
That death has spurred more questions and theories than just about anything in this case. And many of the questions are valid. The Trump DOJ was in charge. Everyone knew Epstein was a notorious high-profile defendant, and yet he died. The Trump DOJ prison, their system there, lost the key video footage of Epstein's cell door. It's never been recovered. They also oversaw other blatant failures, compounded by more secrecy from the top, all the way up to Trump. And then Trump AG Barr told everyone to take his word that Epstein had just killed himself. That didn't silence the questions that built as years went on, and Trump campaigned for his second term, basically running against his own Epstein secrecy in his first term. AG Barr's successor vowed to fix the Trump DOJ's own past secrecy.
Would you declassify the Epstein files?
Yeah, I would. Will that really happen?
It's sitting on my desk right now.
This is not the breaking news that you would expect.
The FBI and Justice Department say they've found no credible evidence of an incriminating client list.
Everybody knows what came next. Trump DOJ breaking its vow to release more material, then trying to distract by releasing, after the memo there, an alternative hallway video, which has been criticized, but of course wasn't the original correct video that remains missing. All of that stoking the more recent questions we've heard this year. Trump's Epstein summer with blowback from the MAGA base, elected Republicans, Democrats, victims advocates. So now, let's apply the full facts so that we can look at these questions. I'm going to show you a timeline here and what we are learning in this case. We're going to look at the recent secrecy, the failures by the Trump administration, why this case has been a failure for justice and governance and transparency. And the history helps reveal links to the current issues, the questions facing Trump as president and as a civilian, because before he was president, he had a sordid history with Epstein. And when we're done walking you through this timeline, you're going to see why so many questions endure to officials linked to Trump, to officials carrying out his priorities at DOJ, all of which has drawn this backlash.
The current DOJ under Pam Bondi is covering up crimes, very serious crimes.
But last week, she put out a 2-page memo effectively declaring the Epstein case closed, which is convenient given the speculation that Trump might be in the so-called client list.
3 times I voted for this man. This is by far the biggest fumble of the administration they've had thus far.
It's indefensible. It's indefensible that the answers aren't there when so much was promised.
He and his administration keep acting like they've got something to hide.
The Epstein case has many details and open questions. Our timeline today focuses on the key facts and developments, starting in March 2005, when local police in Palm Beach, Florida, began a probe into Epstein, investigating reports of abusing victims as young as 14. The local case led to Epstein's indictment for a single count of soliciting prostitution in 2006, not the more serious alleged conduct. In fact, the lead detective in the Palm Beach office referred the case to the FBI to look at the more serious crimes, and those federal investigators began probing allegations. In 2008, Epstein reached a deal with the Bush administration's federal prosecutors to take that local Florida conviction for soliciting prostitution with an adult and a minor. Epstein got a lenient, short prison sentence and an unusual agreement that the Bush DOJ would not prosecute Epstein further, or 4 of his co-conspirators, or any others. Bush DOJ prosecutors also agreed to keep the deal secret and not inform Epstein's victims about it. A judge later found the Bush DOJ's secrecy deal was illegal, violating those victims' rights. So the facts show from the start, Epstein got this unusual protection from the government, in this period, a Republican administration, Bush. And Epstein was a rich, powerful figure. He had ties to people in business and politics. He hired a Republican-connected lawyer, former independent counsel Ken Starr, and served just 1 year in that deal. Now, another 9 years went by, and then the Miami Herald reported an Epstein expose on the allegations of his conduct and that Bush-era prosecutor who cut the sweetheart deal. That investigative report gained traction, partly because of a tie to Trump, who promoted the very prosecutor, Alex Acosta, to his cabinet. The headline at the time hammering how a now Trump official gave a serial sex abuser the deal of a lifetime. And that public pressure from the Herald drove a new federal probe. Internal DOJ reviews would show Acosta had poor judgment in the case, and that the blanket immunity offers for Epstein and others were just indefensible, leading to a fairly swift federal indictment of Epstein on far more serious sex trafficking charges. And the pressure drove the original prosecutor Trump had promoted, Acosta, to resign around this time. And in a key decision, a judge denied Epstein bail, forcing him to be incarcerated before any trial. It was just over a month later, August 2019, when Epstein was found dead in his cell. The situation was suspicious. Officials there broke several protocols. Epstein was a high-profile detainee. He'd been placed on suicide watch, which was then quickly lifted. Guards failed to do required inspections the very night of his death. And a lot of questions were hanging over all of this. So let's go even further ahead, all the way up to 2019 and what happened after that. Because key videos went missing. Trump Attorney General Barr even admitting the prison made mistakes then, but claiming that he personally reviewed prison video which showed no one entering the cell. And with Epstein dead, prosecutors turned to a co-conspirator who might have benefited from that original Florida case being shut down, what I told you about. They went ahead and indicted Ghislaine Maxwell for helping Epstein's sex trafficking, a case brought by a career prosecutor, Maureen Comey, daughter of former FBI Director Comey. And her work continued on when the Biden administration took over. She won Maxwell's conviction and this 20-year prison sentence. Then, during the 2024 campaign, the questions and theories about Epstein's crimes and special treatment were heating up on the right. It was a problem for Trump, given that he promoted the original prosecutor, that he oversaw the DOJ, which failed to answer questions or have transparency about whatever happened in that prison cell. So Trump tried to go on offense, vowing to declassify and release Epstein's files. And his attorney general took over that message and advanced it in office, now infamously claiming that she had the client list on her desk, which she later contradicted because shortly after, the DOJ released an alternate video from the prison. But the key video that shows Epstein's cell door is either lost or hidden. It's never been released. And Bondi released the now infamous memo that said they wouldn't provide any other Epstein documents. So Bondi went from saying there was a client list to there wasn't. She was lying then or lying now. The DOJ memo then said there was no other Epstein info that was going to be released, which ignited that firestorm of criticism we all lived through. And given the broken vows, that couldn't hold. Trump soon contradicted his own DOJ's memo and saying he would try to get grand jury material released, but those are limited transcripts. A lot of the big Epstein information is in the Trump DOJ. They could release it anytime. One judge has denied this. And as the Trump administration's contradicting claims drew more heat on its secrecy, the DOJ then sent this former Trump criminal defense attorney to interview Maxwell in prison and then transferred her to a better prison, an apparent reward for the one person doing any time for Epstein's indicted federal crimes. In July, Trump's DOJ also fired the top prosecutor who won the case against Maxwell, Comey, an unusual ousting of a career prosecutor with no public explanation. So what does this timeline show? That Epstein got help and special treatment and sometimes unlawful benefits from the very federal government that claimed to be investigating him. It happened under the Bush administration, with officials later promoted by Trump. The Trump DOJ only picked up the case in the first term after journalists reported those revelations. Epstein's unusual death met with total secrecy by the first Trump term, and the prosecutor who busted Epstein's co-conspirator ousted in the second term, while Trump and other officials made false, sometimes knowingly false statements about this public history. This is a damning account of President Trump's approach to this case in government. Now, this is a serious governing problem for President Trump and the DOJ and obviously the impacted victims. Even if we learn nothing else about this, it's an open scandal for this administration. And then there are the glaring and inconvenient facts that go back even further before Trump was in government, before the lengthy timeline we just saw. Because as a civilian, Trump had a long relationship with Epstein, who had bought property near Mar-a-Lago, socializing with Trump, engaging in activities, and both men then referring to Epstein's sexual controversies. The two men partied together. They appeared in public and before cameras. This is footage from a Mar-a-Lago event in 1992. Epstein went to Trump's wedding in 1993. And while Trump famously likes his own jet with Trump branding, he found the time and reasons to fly on Epstein's private jet at least 7 times, per the New York Times. Trump photographed with both Epstein and Maxwell in 2000, again at Mar-a-Lago. And the Journal reported about how Trump drew those bawdy sexual references in a birthday card for Epstein, citing, quote, wonderful secrets. Trump denies this and is suing the Journal over it. He now claims his Epstein friendship was shorter than reported, that they clashed over an employee Epstein had poached from Mar-a-Lago, while other accounts say Epstein was a Mar-a-Lago member until 2007, over a year after that original indictment we showed you. Trump breaking the vow to release more Epstein files, but he's also in them, according to recent Journal reporting. And as for Epstein, he was secretive about any time that the two men might have spent with minors when pressed under oath.
You ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Joe, I'd like to answer that question, at least today. I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Legally, these social links alone are not evidence of a crime. They are evidence of a conflict of interest, the kind of link that requires a judge or prosecutor to recuse from a case. But Trump has been doing the opposite, commenting and intervening, his DOJ's actions on Epstein repeatedly putting secrecy over facts, politics over accountability, and, as we saw in the recent controversy, a special transfer and leniency for an actual sex trafficker over justice for the victims. There has been a lot of talk about Epstein, and at the core, this is a case that matters so much to the many people, many victims whose lives were forever altered by Epstein and Maxwell. But you don't need even more Epstein documents, though people are pursuing them, or more facts to understand the raw outline of this case. Some of it predates Trump, with Bush-era prosecutors cutting a deal with a powerful person and cutting out the victims from even learning about it. But much of it involves Trump, from the personal social links to a government that he is overseeing, that after all of the talk and claims for justice and demands for truth in this sex trafficking case, the big thing the Trump administration has done is continue the secrecy, continue to cut the victims out, and, most astoundingly, help and serve an Epstein sex trafficking co-conspirator over truth or justice for the victims.
You ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Though I'd like to answer that question, at least today, I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
Jeffrey Epstein, now deceased, refused to answer questions about any such socializing allegedly involving Donald Trump. Our two expert guests are on hand to respond to our new timeline. We walk through what we have seen from the very first investigation and special treatment and government connections that ultimately benefited first Epstein and later Maxwell in this recent Trump era. For a special discussion on this new report, we're joined by Nancy Erica Smith, a civil rights attorney who's represented victims of sexual assault and harassment, and former federal prosecutor and congressional counsel John Flannery. Welcome to you both. Nancy, given your experience in this area, what does this now fuller timeline tell us about what's happened?
Well, it tells us that victims of sexual abuse, even pedophilia, don't matter in our justice system, and they never have, especially when the perpetrators are rich, powerful, connected politically. The law enforcement community has ignored victims since the beginning of time and continues to do so. And even in this story, the victims, except for what you just did, are rarely even commented on. It's the intrigue of what happened to Epstein and who was involved. But it doesn't. I hope it matters. The reason it matters is because a lot of Trumpers went down the rabbit hole of QAnon and conspiracy theories about Democrats being pedophiles and having a pedophilia ring in some Washington, D.C. tweets.
Let me jump in and have you continue that the political part, in a way, has boomeranged on one party. And you say it sometimes doesn't matter. That's clear. Other times it could matter. We'll show some of the timeline again. From the very beginning, the first deal cut by the Bush federal prosecutor, later promoted to the Trump cabinet, that you see there on that far left, was cut as a secret deal where the victims were not even informed. And many of them feel and say they feel re-traumatized by the last few months, where Maxwell and other activities have gone down with this Trump administration again. Without them, Nancy.
Yeah, and all victims of sexual violence and pedophilia are damaged here, not just Epstein victims who are clearly damaged by what's going on here. I mean, if Maxwell ends up at Club Fed, it's outrageous. It violates even the prison system's own rules. But you know, Karl Rove, I think, started it, accused them of what we're doing. So they swift boated a war hero for a draft dodger, and now they've accused Democrats of pedophilia when they've really covered up and protected one for the past 20 years.
John Flannery, we'll put the timeline back up and tell us what you think is important here, because as we've done in past reporting with you, the facts sometimes are covered up and lied on, but they can still be powerful when presented.
True. I think that the synthesis that you put together is Among the inventory of breaking news stories that you've organized in the past, and I think that what the answer to Nancy is that she makes a difference. We all make a difference whenever we clear out these people who take advantage of their position so that somebody can be above the law, as is the case here. There are two special facts in these cases that I think tell us how the government was concealing what was going on here in terms of conspiracy for trafficking of minors and also protecting individually Epstein. Notice that Epstein originally, in the Florida case, ended up pleading guilty to a single charge that did not involve general trafficking. And then they excluded all the other people who were involved in his conspiracy. And then they sealed it. And they probably made an argument to themselves that, hey, you know, if he's only involved with a prostitute and it's just a John, what we should get away with this. And Acosta, as you mentioned, became Secretary of Labor as a result of being, shall we say, clumsy in his ethical judgments. Now, going forward, we see that the Southern District of New York, my old office, I think made a mistake here because the case is really divided in between a man who's selling sex to others, a pimp really, and a person who's a John. They only prosecuted the John. They only prosecuted Epstein and Maxwell, and that's their conspiracy. But the conspiracy that's ignored is what Nancy was referring to. All of these other victims, besides the 6 that were identified at Maxwell's trial. And there's no doubt that the government at the time thought that she was a severe offender because while she got 20 years, the government said they thought that the range went from 30 to 55 years. That's how serious they thought, but not this Justice Department. And this Justice Department goes out and has 1,000 people go through 100,000 pages and do what they did. It's spoliation. How can we trust any document that would come out of that Justice Department? We couldn't. And that's all part of it. And the final thing I would say, forgive me for going on, but the final thing I would say is when Hillbilly Vance was going to have a meeting at his home with certain people, and maybe Trump was concerned they were going to talk about the 25th Amendment, they may have decided then, hey, let's give them the Maxwell case, because the Maxwell case is only about Maxwell and Epstein. It's not about anything else. Whether the judge keeps it away from us or gives it to us, no harm, no foul. And we've already taken care of everybody at justice. And a logical witness on the Hill would be Comey. She prosecuted the case. Bring her up and talk to her. Bring up the people who are not among the 6. This is a case I wish they would have pointed to this. And you, Aaron.
Well, I'll jump in, and I appreciate what you said, and you made a lot of connections. And to that point, Nancy,
yes,
we don't have firm reporting on why Comey was fired, Ms. Comey. The government didn't provide a reason, which itself is a bit suspicious for someone as decorated as her. It could be she was fired because her last name was Comey, and Donald Trump suddenly found out about it from reading articles, said this person still works here. It could also be that
I didn't know he read.
Yeah, it could also, but it could also be read. Well, you know, maybe a news alert of some kind.
Sorry,
but it could also be, Nancy, that as they dug more into this Maxwell case and allegedly, according to some critics, are trying to rewrite it. Holding unusual interviews with her, trying to clear the sitting president from a link to this rather than doing law enforcement work, that having her around was an interference because she's still the lead prosecutor. It's still, in DOJ terms, it's still her prisoner and that it's her case. For example, a transfer or any other, hard to imagine giving a commutation or pardon to this sex trafficker. But if you did, it's her defendant and now convict that you would check the case on. So Nancy, to ask you the question where the timeline ends, what does it say about this current Trump administration on the substance of justice for these victims? And we'll put up that image again to remind people there are real human beings involved in this, as we've endeavored to do throughout the coverage. This is Ms. Farmer, Ms. Michaels, Ms. Ransom, the people affected here. What does it tell you that the only living incarcerated individual linked to some of their victimhood is getting leniency, and the prosecutor who busted her is out?
Yeah, and Trump's DOJ is I agree with John. I have no faith in this DOJ. Fighting for these records that the DOJ has already been through is a farce because they're corrupt. They're Trump protectors. They are not representing the people of the United States. And the Oversight Committee, led by James Comer, has thanked the Trump administration for its transparency and subpoenaed Clinton instead of Ms. Comey, the prosecutor, or the victims that are still alive because
or Mr. Acosta, yeah.
Or Mr. Acosta, or other victims. There are more than 6 victims, and there are victims that are still wanting to come forward and testify. So the joke that is going on between the executive branch and the Oversight Committee in Congress is only exacerbated by the fact that now we have a judge saying the DOJ can't release the files. Since when did the Trump administration care what judges say? They said they were going to release the files. They didn't. They found out that Trump is all over them, and we know that. You showed us that. And it's a giant cover-up of what they've been talking about for Democrats for 20 years now, and they're stuck with it. But does it matter to MAGA? I don't know. Trump has already been convicted of what the judge said is rape. There are 26 victims of his child abuse. He admitted
civilly liable in New York.
Yeah.
Civilly liable in New York, yeah.
Yes, he admitted bursting in on teens during his pageant. He admitted grabbing women by the genitals without their consent. I mean, what more does it take to tell you that this man is a sexual abuser and that he was close to a pedophile ring? It's before our eyes, and so I don't know what we're going to see in the files, but I have no faith that that's going to be what shows it. You've shown it already. The evidence is already there. Epstein's own brother admits Epstein talked about Trump all the time, and you showed us him pleading the fifth when asked about Trump with underage women. The answer should have been no. The answer wasn't no. I don't know what else we need.
Yeah. Well, we wanted to give this the time it merits, and we're going to stay on these stories. Nancy Erica Smith, John Flannery.
Thank you.
My thanks to both of you. Thank you. Coming up, are the protests working as Trump's approval sinks? That's a big political question. Are liberals getting better at trolling, as the internet seems to be the dominant way we all communicate? Here's one from the governor of California, and Obama vet Che Komanduri is here next. A top Republican congresswoman basically booed off the stage. That's in her own district, so she won enough votes as a Republican, but apparently is having trouble holding on to support. That was a very real illustration. There were protesters, signs calling her a sellout to Trump, and people saying she needs to go away.
Well, Elise has not shown up in our district in months and months. She won't hold a town hall. She won't take questions. She's never at her office.
I don't think this is about Democrats versus Republicans or anything. We're all represented by Stefanik.
That is in a swing district in New York. If you go over to bright red Wyoming, another Republican jeered at a town hall, including over issues we were covering tonight, the genuine concern about the Trump DOJ's handling of the Jeff Epstein case and other Trump issues.
Do you support the release of those files?
I support it's up to the courts to decide. It is up to the courts to decide.
Thank you.
It's up to the courts to decide. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
These are in areas that Republicans won, to say nothing of more broad swing districts where they were close or lost last cycle, or the rest of the country. And these are only the districts where people are holding town halls, the majority of Republicans avoiding them. Obama vet Che Komanduri on what this leads to with an eye on the midterms next. It's a special day on the beat, Che Day. Che Komanduri, a veteran of 3 presidential campaigns, including Obama's, is not just a cartoon. He's here in the flesh. Welcome back.
Good to be here.
What do you see in these town hall revolts for some Republicans?
What I see is like probably one of the most important trends of Trump 2.0,
which is that everyday average Americans are far more resistant to Trump than the elites are. You know, you have Tim Cook giving Trump fake trophies in the Oval Office. You have academia bending the knee to Trump, like Columbia University did.
Yeah.
You have what happened with CBS canceling Colbert. The media companies are also doing the same thing. You're just seeing the elites in this country continue to kowtow to Trump in a way that doesn't make any real sense. I mean, this is a movement, the MAGA movement, an authoritarian movement that is led by an 80-year-old man who is in decline on every single level. You know, and I think the average everyday Americans don't like what they're seeing. They're not afraid, and they're willing to rise up. And I think this is also a factor with the Democratic Party. You know, you see the Democratic grassroots, in my opinion, have been much better than the Democratic leadership.
Yeah, and then some of the Democratic leadership might be fighting old battles or be
Right.
sort of scared of how much Trump seems to come back. Here's what we're seeing in, again, these town halls.
Right.
Thank you very much, and have a safe drive home.
I was also proud to vote for President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill last week. This is a generational investment.
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me of what the podcaster Andrew Schultz said when people said, "Oh, you voted for Trump," and he says, "I didn't vote for any of this," right? And you see the average American did not vote for any of this. They voted for cheaper groceries. They voted for less chaos overall with crime and border issues, but they certainly did not vote for what Donald Trump is doing now.
Yeah.
It is an absolute rebuke of what he has done and how he's conducted the office since coming into office.
And as you said, some of these places are stuck with the government. The universities are so reliant on federal funding, and some of them were warned about this back in the day, that they don't feel they can subsist without it. Companies are companies. You're describing what the rest of America is, which is not federally funded entities worried about taxes. It's real people. That's what makes this democracy function. So even briefly today, I like what you said, Che. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
All right. Great to have Che Komanduri. When we come back, Trump wants to end free speech. A lot of other people have different ideas. So much going on, and we still have time to fall back with two very special guests tonight, both making fallback debuts. That's unusual. GQ senior editor columnist Fraser Thorpe also writes Tap In at GQ. He's profiled some of the biggest names in our culture. I see him at all kinds of parties and events, so he knows where to be. Pharrell, John Hammond, Superman himself, recently profiled in those iconic pages. He also wrote about Beyonce, the business of being Beyonce Knowles Carter. And we have a comic and magician, Slashy, Justin Willman. He's performed in front of esteemed audiences, but what more do you need to know than this one? The Obamas, and he has his own Netflix special, Magic Lover.
I don't want to say I was unpopular. Kelly, well, I'm not a wizard. I don't have special powers. If I did, I would not be doing magic for a living. Can I show you some close-up magic?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Welcome, you guys. Your North American tour, I should mention, is on the way. Welcome.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Great to have you guys.
Good to be here, Ari.
By the end of this, we might ask you for a trick.
Okay.
Okay, but Fraser, what is on your fallback list right now?
Right now, I think rap stands on Twitter specifically need to fall back.
The super fans.
Yes, the super fans. You cannot go one day without tweeting a lightly dissenting opinion, and then you just get zealots in your mentions for the rest of the week telling you to die and maybe doxing you, which is OD.
And where does this term "stan" come from?
Eminem, obviously famously, although popularized by Nas, which I'm sure you might know.
Respect.
Dissing Jay-Z. But lately, especially in the advent, of course, of the big beef last summer, we've seen that, stans used to kind of just flock to pop stars for the most part. Rap opinions could be thrown around pretty fairly and easily. Now, you got the Drake and the Kendrick fans ready to pounce on you. You say anything dissenting about the other one. But even like the Nicki Minaj Barbs are some of the most feared people.
I mean, shout out to the Barbs, but you don't play with them.
You cannot play with the Barbs.
You don't play with the Barbs.
How's a Barb different from a stan?
A barb is just like an elite level stan. Like Primo's. They'll find your address.
And it starts with Nicki Minaj stands.
I see.
And to your point, Fraser, this is like second generation internet. Like in the beginning of the internet, right? It was like early Instagram. Here's a picture of my breakfast. And now it's like you say like this wasn't my favorite album by this artist.
Just
and
not
a
your
favorite
favorite.
is like just one. Most people don't have 10.
This one could have been better.
And then they come for you.
I got called an OVO ho. I don't know. You've seen that OV ho.
You were called that.
I was called an OV
because
ho.
of your musical position.
Saying something lightweight positive about Drake, even though days before that, the Drake fans, you know, the ones with, you know, they have the owl in the bio.
Sure.
They were flocking me.
And people recognize this. I mean, throughout music culture, Justin, and even in Hollywood, you know, people swear by this or that, but the internet sort of supercharged. It's almost, for our political viewers, it reminds you of partisanship.
Yeah,
literally. It's not something people want more of.
It's like starting to get a MAGA bent.
Like I'm learning a lot right now.
You must be on like the nice side of Twitter.
I don't know. Magicians do not
What's
have
magician
stands.
Twitter like?
Okay,
No?
there's no stands in Magic.
So you don't even have that level of fan
I
or
wish
hater.
we had stands. I would love some Magic stands.
You don't get people putting the abracadabra emoji and the bunny emoji.
I mean, occasionally, they're the ones you don't really want standing you. You know,
There you
like they're only barbs. But
respect. What's on your fallback list?
And I appreciate that fallback, by the way. Can we fall back with all the podcasts? I'm the only person that I know who does not have a podcast. I have not talked to a friend of mine without a microphone being involved for 5 years.
I used to have a podcast.
You used to have a do you have a podcast, Ari?
I don't have a standalone podcast. Since you asked,
yes.
Beat viewers can catch the audio by searching The Beat on any podcast platform.
There you go.
That's considered a podcast.
It's audio of the news show. But no, I don't have a separate one.
So it's that I respect that. I respect that.
I mean, we're doing this thing every night, man.
Do you know how many podcasts there are?
You know what? And I didn't prepare for this segment to get that number, but I read recently that over 50,000 new ones launch a year.
Yeah.
Is that true?
There's 4.5 million total. There's 4.5 million people in Ireland. It's a country of podcasts.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would take 10,000 years to listen to all the podcasts.
So you're drawing a line.
I mean, there should be at least a license, a podcast, like some sort of prerequisite. There's 4.5 million. 7 of them are good.
Now, if you're such a great magician.
Yeah.
Why can't you make some of them disappear?
Listen, hey, see, that could be a podcast. This could be a podcast right now.
I hope not.
You know, insulting a magician. No,
we're on live TV. Not insulting.
No, not insulting.
Challenging. We're on live TV.
What? Yeah.
We're on live TV right now.
Okay.
This is really live.
Okay.
Most of these podcasts are recorded.
Yeah.
They are. They are.
Can you do us a trick? And this is live, so whatever it is, we're going to see it.
The podcast version of whatever I'm about to do will not land as well as this live TV version.
Okay.
Because I've been doing magic since I was 12. People always wonder, how'd you become a magician?
Move stuff out of the way.
Classic
I'll move this out. This is really happening. We're moving stuff out of the way. Let's see it. What do you got?
So I broke my arms when I was a kid. I was riding my bike, fell off, and my doctor recommended I learn card tricks to get my dexterity back. Okay. He prescribed magic as physical therapy. So cards have always been, they've always fascinated me. And you can tell a lot about somebody by what card you ask them. Like if I said, Ari, name a card, and I will in a second, don't do it yet, I can learn a lot about you, okay? A lot of people say Ace of Spades, Queen of Hearts, right? Those are people who are uncreative, right? If I were to ask you to name a card, what would you say, Fraser?
Jack of Trades.
Jack of what?
Jack of
Trades. You're Jack of Hearts. I can see that. You're compassionate, like you love art and creativity. Ari, we never met before today. I feel like I've sized you up. I've turned one card in this deck the other way. Ari, name any card.
Is the Joker a card I can pick?
No, any one of the 52 cards.
10 of Hearts?
That is a card. Is that your answer?
Yeah.
Final answer?
10 of Hearts. That's a card.
10 of Hearts.
Fine, I picked it.
Oh my God, this is great. Okay, check this out. So before the interview began, I went through the deck here, and you could see, and I took one card and I turned it the opposite way of the 52 card, and it's the 10 of
Oh my
Wow.
God! What? Look, can I touch it?
You can touch it, yes.
You saw it. You saw it
in the green room. I didn't see any of it.
Touch it.
For real, for real.
Yeah, you're a 10 of Hearts guy.
I'll fact check. It is the 10 of Hearts. All right, so this is a news thing.
Are you a magic stand now?
Maybe I'm becoming a stand. You were sitting there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see any funny business?
No funny business here or in the green room.
Did you
before.
see any like last minute moving this card after I said it?
Absolutely not.
Because we don't want any funny business, not on the news.
Tape. You know, you've got these lighters here all the time, and I don't know if you know any tricks with it, but this is a great one, just for the viewers. You can.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. Be the life of the podcast.
I'm gonna tell you something. We didn't know what you were gonna do.
Yeah.
Live off top, this was impressive. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Very fire.
You vouch.
I vouch.
There we go.
I'm all in.
I knew it.
All right.
He vouches.
Frazier and Justin, this was a fallback unlike any other. I hope you both come back. We'll be right back. It's a lot of news, some politics. We still try to have fun around here from time to time. And we have something fun for you this October in New York, if you're around, Saturday, October 11th, MSNBC Live 25. This is our second live community event, our first ever in Manhattan. Rachel and everyone you see on your screen will be there, including yours truly. So you can go to MSNBC Live, that website, /live25, or scan that code. You can get tickets, come say hi, meet us. And if you're not near New York, as many of you are not, but you know someone there, tell them about it, or if you're in the mood, gift them a ticket, because we can't wait to meet so many of you, I should say, on the other side of this screen. All right, that does it for the beat. The card was 10 of hearts.